What's up, everybody? April is almost here, and while it won't be quite as busy as February and March, there's still a lot to talk about. We've got 29 games on tap, 5 have demos, 3 are leaving Steam Early Access, and 2 are coming to Game Pass as of right now. That number will likely climb as the month goes on. Friendly reminder to like and subscribe if you dig these videos, and to also check out the links below to find me on all the socials. Now, let's dive in. TERRORBANE is a game that looks like a generic fantasy RPG, but there's a twist. The goal of the game is to exploit bugs and cheat your way through the developer's sloppy design. This isn't me being mean, that's literally how the game is played. Bugs are your friends. Not like insects, but like video game bugs. Exploit them to work through a crazy world full of unique characters and nods to the history of video games. This seems like a quirky little adventure that, despite its release date, is a very real thing happening on April 1st. Baseball is back. This year's version brings with it a couple of additions, including cross-platform play and cross-progression, along with the new presentation features, and the fact that this is the first time that the game will launch on the Nintendo Switch, with last year being its first time on Xbox. The latest generation consoles will also include new Stadium Creator Editions, and the typical visual and performance upgrades you come to expect with the newer consoles. While I love the show, this is an annualized sports franchise that I don't feel has made any substantial strides forward in the last few years. Thankfully, it is coming to Game Pass, so I'll definitely play it. If it were full priced, probably not. LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga lets you play through LEGO versions of all 9 Skywalker films. While I myself have never been able to play a LEGO game for more than 30 minutes, I'm still very excited about this game. Star Wars is my favorite franchise out there, and I think this could be a really fun way to relive the entire saga. I also think my almost 4-year-old son will adore this. While still a LEGO game, there's a level of visual quality that, to me, really seems to set itself apart from past LEGO games. Janitor Bleeds is a retro-inspired horror game set in an old arcade. After playing an arcade machine called Janitor, a horrible force is unleashed upon the player. The only way to survive is to keep playing, but the further you go, the more influence the game has on the real world. There's something really interesting about this setup. The game is playing off the idea that while your focus is on the arcade game, what kind of horrifying things might be taking place around you? With PS1-inspired visuals but modern gameplay mechanics, this will be an interesting one to keep an eye on as we get closer to release. Originally introduced in arcades back in 1997, this is a remade version of the on-rails shooter House of the Dead. The game will have updated visuals and multiple endings. One of the bullet points also states that it'll have modern controls, but from what I saw, it still looks like a fixed camera light gun-esque shooter. For me, House of the Dead was fine to spend 50 cents on in an arcade, but the franchise has never really meant much more than that to me. I'm sure the die-hard fans get it? Die-hard? Zombies? We'll be excited to have a more modernized way to play this game when it comes to the Switch on April 7th. Also coming out of early access on April 7th, Forgive Me Father is a dark retro horror first-person shooter set in a comic book-style world inspired by the novels of H.P. Lovecraft. Manage your madness as you work through the game, as audio, visual, and gameplay are all affected should you stray too close to the edge. My first impression of the trailer for this game reminds me of a cross between two games specifically, the original Doom and Darkest Dungeon. The action seems fast-paced, and the comic book art will look good to some. A cybernetic point-and-click adventure, Chinatown Detective Agency blends retro design with innovative mechanics. You play as a Mira Dharma, cop-turned-private detective. Your job is to travel the world and solve dangerous cases using real-world research. While I'm not a fan of point-and-click games, the story and setup for this one is intriguing to me. The implementation of real-world research is an interesting facet as well, having you use real-world resources to solve mysteries in the game. Coined as a charming restaurant management and feline adoption simulator, Cat Cafe Manager has you attempting to reopen Granny's once thriving cafe. Try to establish it as the greatest dining establishment while uncovering its mysterious and possibly magical secrets. Cat Cafe Manager draws inspiration from simulation and management games and brings with it an emphasis on personality, charm, and a love of cats. I'm not a cat guy in any way, shape, or form, but I know there's an audience out there that this game speaks directly to. And to those people I say, you cats have fun. Labeled as East Punk, which definitely is the first time I've ever heard that term, Ghostlore is an action RPG that pits you against monsters from Southeast Asian folklore. The game features character customization, procedurally generated maps, and a 2D isometric presentation. While the visuals by no means blew me away, the combat is reminiscent of more recent titles like Hades and Curse of the Dead Gods, while the visuals harken back to old-school Diablo. My graphical snobbery may exclude this game from my list, but the combat looks alright. I could be making a mistake passing it over. The annualized racing series returns, bringing with it new features. One feature, simply called 9, is brand new to the game and allows players to relive one of the most incredible seasons in MotoGP history. That's marketing talking, not me. I don't follow MotoGP, but if the season was great enough to dedicate an entire mode to it, it must have really been something. 9 features 50 minutes of original footage from the 2009 season, but players will be able to step into the boots of those legendary riders. I'd just like to point out that I think this sport has to be the most crazy dangerous sport you can do. I remember falling off my bike back in the day and thinking, there's no way I'm going to survive this. A sequel to a game that came out over 2 decades ago in arcades, Ganryu 2 melds frantic, action-packed gameplay with beautiful pixel art environments. The game takes place in feudal fantasy Japan, and the events are inspired by a series of books from the 1930s called The Stone and the Sword. Not to be confused with one of my favorite Disney movies, Sword and the Stone. You play as Miyamoto Musashi as you hack and slash, dash, double jump, and wall jump your way across the island of Japan. This game does look to have a frantic pace, and the visuals look stunning. I never played the original, but this gameplay looks great. The Serpent Rogue combines alchemy and experimental exploration. The Serpent Rogue refers to the corruption sweeping the land, and as the Warden, it's your job to cleanse the realm and restore balance to Mount Morbus. Experimentation with ingredients will help you craft unique potions that will help you on your journey. Each decision and action you take will affect the world, though. Leaving bodies unburied may attract ghouls, or leaving items littered about could bring about dangerous rats. While the cel-shaded art looks good, despite my not being sure if it fits tonally, I'm more curious about the combat. It looks a bit clunky, but then again, with alchemy being your main prerogative, perhaps combat isn't as important. It's a little strange to include Dorfromantik on this list because I remember last year people talking about the early access version of the game and giving it very high praise. That hype cycle has since died down a bit, but could rekindle after the game exits early access on April 28th. Dorfromantik is a peaceful building strategy and puzzle game where you expand your village by placing tiles. While I heard great things, I never actually dove in myself. I love the chill vibe the game gives off though. Here come the Kaiju. Rally the troops, scramble your jets, and deploy your tanks. Strengthen your defenses as you try to fend off the giant monster's attacks. You can also distract the monster by building fake bases and airfields and even try out some new experimental weapons on the creatures. This game has a very similar art style to Into the Breach and looks like it could also be similar in gameplay. I never played it myself, but I know that it was supremely popular with those that dig that genre. Also, who doesn't love Kaiju? Essentially, Wii Sports for the Switch, Nintendo Switch Sports brings soccer, volleyball, bowling, tennis, badminton, and chambara, which apparently means swordplay, to the Switch. The physical version even comes with a leg strap to use for Soccer Shootout Plus. Golf will also make its way to the game as a free update in the fall. This is definitely one of those you know what you're getting games. The original Wii Sports was a pack-in title that every Wii owner had exposure to. Making the next iteration of the game for the Switch is a layup and will very likely be incredibly successful. Do you push a single man in front of a train to ensure the survival of 5 others? Should a self-driving car value the life of its occupants more than the lives of others? I'm already flustered, and all I did was read that out loud. In what could just as well be called Existential Crisis the Game, Trolley Problem Inc. asks you to think about those issues that are uncomfortable to think about. Not only do you think about them, you act on them, and you do so within a time limit. Not for the faint of heart. The beloved classic returns with Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers Edition, coming to modern consoles. Cross timelines, recruit dozens of party members, and explore the world while listening to one of the greatest soundtracks in gaming. Fans of the most famous detective in the world will have a chance to play through 2016's Sherlock Holmes: The Devil's Daughter on April 7th when the Switch version releases. If you dig old-school arcade racers like Outrun and Cruisin' USA, you should keep your eye on Slipstream. Originally released for PC back in 2018, drift your way through beautiful landscapes on current and last-gen consoles on April 7th. Play through the stories of each of the 13 Sentinel pilots to piece together a story that covers multiple timelines. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim was nominated for Best Narrative at the 2020 Game Awards, so check it out when it comes to Switch on April 12th. In the first major DLC for Back 4 Blood, Tunnels of Terror will bring new PvE content, new playable cleaners and ridden variants, a new character, and weapon skins. Experience the road trip of a lifetime when Road 96 comes to PlayStation and Xbox consoles on April 14th. With a story inspired by Tarantino, the Coen brothers, and Bong Joon-ho, it seems like it could be quite the ride. Bringing back the fixed camera terror of early Resident Evil games, Tormented Souls makes its grand appearance on the Switch on April 14th. NHL 96 meets Mutant League Hockey meets Letterkenny. Not sure if Bush League Hockey will be fun to play, but those things do sound good together. The N64 cult classic Glover is being re-released on Steam. That's it. That's the tweet. Step into the role of Starkiller, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, and Hunter of Jedi when Star Wars The Force Unleashed comes to Switch on April 20th. Chernobylite Enhanced Edition is coming to PS5 and Series X/S on April 21st with improved visuals, a quality and performance selector, and PS5-specific DualSense features. Sure, Zombie Hitler is dead now, but that won't stop the undead hordes. Send them back to hell, but do so with all Season Pass 1 content when Zombie Army 4 Dead War comes to Switch on April 26th. Fix your airship and explore an Eastern fantasy world when Tazomachi Behind the Twilight comes to Switch and PS4 on April 28th. And that wraps up April, everyone. Thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy gaming. We'll see you in May.